Hello and welcome to another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling video podcast type thing, where we're back once again to take you through the matches, main events, and of course mullets of the WWF and WCW of yesteryear. I am the Big Daddy D, and joining me here at the podcasting table is Little Daddy E.
Hello.
So, a lot of stuff been going on in wrestling recently, a lot of moving parts.
Yep.
This is just after WrestleMania weekend.
WrestleMania.
Shinsuke Nakamura is now in NXT. We saw that Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson are in the WWE as well.
And there's been that Balor Club thing going around. Oh, I wonder what could happen.
It's certainly going to be quite interesting, I think. And then over on TNA, things are getting quite interesting as well. The situation that retired former wrestlers Ron and Don Harris, aka Skull and 8 Ball, aka Jacob and Eli Blue, aka the Bruise Brothers, the Grimm Twins, you get the impression they've sort of worked the evil twin sort of gimmick. They've obviously invested their money wisely since they retired as wrestlers, for they've started up their own sort of production and marketing company. A production and marketing company that has been doing the most recent set of TV tapings for TNA Wrestling.
Yep.
And as we're recording this particular week, TNA actually own money to the Harris brothers, and if that money isn't paid soon, then the Harris brothers could very well own a majority of Total Non-Stop Action Wrestling.
Plus, they're also friends with other shareholders in TNA, like Vince Russo.
Well, no, Vince Russo isn't a shareholder.
Oh, not Vince. No, sorry.
No.
Ignore that. Cut that.
No. Well, no, Dixie Carter is the only shareholder, is literally the only shareholder in TNA because...
I thought Vince Russo would have owned some.
Well, no, yeah, Jeff Jarrett did own some, but then basically Dixie Carter bought his shares off him.
So they could have total control over Total.
Yeah. And you see, the thing is, they're like looking to have like a new investor to keep sort of TNA going, but Dixie Carter wants to keep 51% of the company. But it's like you don't really have any bargaining tools to bring to the table there, Dixie. So we don't know what's going to happen with TNA. It could end up dying. Mind you, we fought that right about the end of last year, didn't we?
Yeah.
Will it keep going, or will it finally die a much deserved and prolonged death? We will have to wait and see.
It's been dying ever since we brought in Hogan, let's be honest. And Russo, and why? Just why?
But let's not worry about that now. Let's talk about stuff that happened way back in 1989.
Hooray.
It's November 23rd, and we're live from the Rosemont Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois. Thankfully, Gorilla Monsoon is back at the commentators' table following the failed experiment to have Tony Schiavone as the main commentator for a WWF pay-per-view.
Beate! For Schiavone!
Gorilla is joined by Jesse the Pilgrim Ventura. Gobble, gobble.
Oh, indeed. For the start of our pay-per-view, a collage of WWF superstars kick off the show with a bunch of rapid-fire promos where they highlight what they are thankful for. Dusty is thankful for his polka dogs. Hulk Hogan is thankful for his Hulkamaniacs. The Bushwhackers are thankful for sardine stuffing in their turkey.
Lovely.
Rick Martel is thankful for his good looks. Mr. Perfect is thankful for being absolutely perfect.
No. Absolutely perfect.
I need to get a hang of. I can't get the hang of that. It's just too perfect. And then the Ultimate Warrior shouts something.
Yo, Hulkamaniacs! It's Thanksgiving night, and this is the happiest time of year for all the maniacs, brother. You know, me and all my little Hulksters, we got a lot of things to be thankful for. Number one, we're thankful for being happy and very healthy. We're thankful for having time to share with our loved ones. We're also thankful that Hulkamania is still the strongest force in the universe. And after the turkey's done, after the blessings are all done, I can tell you what the Hulkster's mostly happy about. It's Survivor Series time, and I'm thankful for my team of Hulkamaniacs. I'm thankful because I'm rich and you're not.
I'm thankful for having Damien and the DDT.
You know what we're thankful for? We don't have to fight each other.
Oh yeah, I am thankful that I am the only man worthy of being the Macho King. Oh yeah.
I'm thankful for the privilege of living right here in the good old US of A. Tough guy. I'm thankful I've got the big earthquake on my side.
What I'm thankful for Thanksgiving?
for my polka dot. I'm thankful for the judges I serve. I'm thankful for wrestling, cutting, and strutting.
I'm thankful for my good looks.
I'm thankful for having the most ravishing body in the WWF.
I'm thankful because I ate Ricky Rude.
I am thankful for being the world's smartest man.
I'm thankful for being absolutely perfect.
Yeah, we're thankful for having sardine stuffing and our turkey tonight.
I'm thankful for spending Thanksgiving with all the members of the Heenan family.
Thanksgiving every day, but especially this day, as the Warriors give me the intensity to deliver the pair at Survivor Series. It is going to be a war!
This is then followed by Vince McMahon's brilliant, over-the-top, shouty announcer voice, where he introduces all of the teams. This year's Survivor Series has dropped the number of team members to 4 on 4, as well as adding team names such as the Enforcers, the Dream Team, the King's Court, and the 4x4s.
Because 4x4s are terrifying.
So our first match of the evening is Team Captain Dusty Rhodes with Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Tito Santana, and the Red Rooster versus Team Captain the Big Boss Man, Bad News Brown, the Honky Tonk Man, and the model Rick Martel. It's the Dream Team versus the Enforcers.
Okay.
I have to do that bit in Vince McMahon's shouty announcer voice.
Conspicuous by his absence is Big Boss Man's tag team partner in the Twin Towers, Akeem, who ended up no-showing the event for some reason. Maybe he was finally fed up with his gimmick. Akeem, the White African Dream's place, is now taken by notorious loner Bad News Brown.
Of course, one would wonder why Bad News would team up with a southern prison guard and a white guy named Honky in the first place.
Oh, God! You were a bad person. No.
Thank you. Martel and Santana have the main issue here, still stemming from the Strikeforce split earlier in the year, so they start things off. The two of them run through the basics until poor old Terry Taylor gets tagged in to be the sacrificial lamb. Or rooster. Or whatever.
Poor old Terry Taylor. At this point in his career, he was just riding out the contractual gravy train, collecting his pay until he could legally go, oh, I don't know, anywhere else in the world but the WWF.
Santana gets the hot tag and flattens Martel, but when he tries a roll-up, it gets reversed for the pin, which is pretty much how most of their matches ended. Outside the ring, we see Shane McMahon making his pay-per-view debut as the on-the-floor referee for every match, although he's never referred to by name. I'm guessing that Vinnie Mac stuck Shane O'Mac out there in order to learn the pace and flow of a wrestling match from a young age. Also, the future Sapphire is shown in the front row of the crowd, cheering on the American Dream.
Back in the ring, Taylor and Martel do a nice sequence, and again poor Terry gets killed. Oh, Jesus, getting buried, we get it already.
Rooster makes the mistake of trash-talking Bad News and takes a beating for it. However, just like last year, Bad News runs afoul of a teammate after getting accidentally clobbered by Boss Man and ends up walking out on his team. It gets worse for the Enforcers as Beefer flattens Honky with a high knee and eliminates him as well. Beefer then wrestles with Martel for a while, with Brother Brute-Eye getting the pin on a sunset flip. Bossman is now left on 3-1.
But the momentum doesn't last long, as after eating some punches from the Rooster, Bossman crushes Taylor with the Bossman Slam. Thanks for coming.
But then Dusty comes flying in with a flying body press for the pin and the victory at the 22-minute mark. This was decent, although Bossman gets a measure of revenge by handcuffing the Dream and beating him with his nightstick until Beefer makes the save with his hedge clippers. Believe it or not, this was the blow-off to the Bossman vs Dusty feud.
Wait, what? Not the start?
No, the start was when he nicked his nightstick.
But what?
Afterwards, in the back, a very sweaty Bossman calls the Dream his prisoner and says that he now has no rights as a human being.
Wow, nothing like police brutality then.
Go, 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 go!
All right, we're down to the wire here on the Survivor Series. Tonight, King's Court will have to deal with these four men. They are the 4x4s that have to the mechanical expertise of Bret the Hitman Hart.
Let me tell you something, Gene. This is going to be the 4x4's finest hour. Valentine, Bravo, the Macho King, and the Earthquake are going to find out the hard way what the 4x4s are all about.
All right, here's a man that brings experience to the party in the form of Rugged Ronnie Garvin.
Well, the 4x4s are ready. Greg the Hammer Valentine, I got a personal score to settle, and I'm going to shoot that big mouth of yours and stick this right into it.
All right, it's the power of the mighty Hercules.
You know me and Gene with the Hitman, Rugged Ronnie Garvin, and this guy in my corner. I don't foresee any problems tonight.
Okay, Captain Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
You can feel it in me, Gene. You can feel it, and you can see it. This team right here is ready for anything. Savage, you and that King's Court are in for a long, long night. When the 4x4s come to the ring, we got one thing in mind, and that's to beat people up. Ready? Aim! Fire!
Our next match is Team Captain Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Bret the Hitman Hart, Rugged Ronnie Garvin, and the Mighty Hercules versus Team Captain Macho King Randy Savage, Dino Bravo, Greg the Hammer Valentine, and the Earthquake. It's the 4x4s versus the King's Court.
Oh, I get what we call 4x4s now. Bravo is right now subbing for the injured Barry Windham.
The babyfaces lay into Valentine for a while. Hercules gets caught in the wrong corner, however, and quickly gets flattened by an Earthquake splash in short order. Once again, thanks for coming.
Oh, those poor jobbers. Bret manages to schoolboy Earthquake from behind, which allows Garvin to splash for a 2 count. Yeah, that's nice. Garvin plays face in peril for a while before he and Valentine chop the crap out of each other. Both of us, I swear.
Duggan catches a quick tag and clotheslines Hammer for the pin. Bret and Savage tag into the match, which pops the crowd and the commentators. Bret and Randy exchange a quick sequence, bringing us a ray of hope into this show. Sadly, Bravo tags in.
It was all going so well. Garvin comes in and gets side-slammed and pinned. Wow, and I thought he had it wrapped up after the Garvin Stomp of Doom.
Savage and Bret teases again by doing another couple of minutes. Bret then gets destroyed by Earthquake and does his usual amazing sell job. Miracle Tag allows Duggan to come in and get a few shots in, but then the plank-waving twat decides to tag Bret straight back in again. Huh?
And as you'd expect, Savage pounces like a vulture and finishes the injured Bret with the big elbow. Wow, what an idiot Duggan is. But now Duggan is now 1-on-3.
Which is just like what happened with the Boss Man in the previous match.
It's almost like the same exact finish.
Duggan fights off the superior numbers until we get a really unnecessarily cheap ending, as Sherry trips him up and he's counted out at the 23-minute, 23-second mark. I mean, wow. You've got a former world champion, the world's strongest man, and a guy named after a natural disaster, and they still needed the female manager to beat Duggan. Seriously? Anyway, this match turned out better than expected, although it definitely could have done with more Bret versus Savage moments.
Following this, Randy's brother, the Genius, full of glory and renown, pops in to give us a quick poem. That's nice of him.
Next up, it's Team Captain Hulk Hogan, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Demolition versus the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, the Human Wrecking Machine, Zeus!
Oh no!
And the Powers of Pain. It's the Hulkamaniacs versus the $1 Million Team.
As we can see, the Demolition has got...
The Demolition?
The Demolition.
The Demolition. Is that like the Ryback?
Oh god. As we can see, Demolition has actually got the tag team titles back since SummerSlam.
Yes, the Demos had the Demolition.
Stop it!
Had regained the tag titles from the Brainbusters the week before on WWF Superstars. But that's only because the Busters were rapidly heading back through the door off to Turnerland again, and Vince needed an over-team to job to that other awesome duo, Haku and Andre the Giant.
Yeah, that's a fair trade. What was wrong with WWF just giving Powers of Pain a run with the belts of the early 1990s instead?
Would have made sense, especially considering that they're now feuding with Demolition again for some reason. Anyway, that big Hogan versus Zeus issue was still building, so it's them that starts off the match, which only adds more fuel to the fire that was the very real fear of Vince McMahon booking Hogan versus Zeus as the main event of WrestleMania 6. Yikes.
Oh God. Why does this man still own a company?
The gangster no-sells all of Hogan's offense, which gives the Hulkster a taste of his own medicine and makes him my hero for a few seconds. But then he goes too far and shoves the referee to get himself disqualified.
Yeah, bring on that singles match. At least he went quick.
Gorilla has a great quote at this point. I don't care if you have got a Z on the side of your head. That's not legal.
Try saying that to complete strangers just to annoy them.
Hulk gets beaten up by the heels for a while, then Snake and DiBiase do their thing. Axe comes in and gets pinned after being tripped up and elbow dropped. Yawn. Smash comes in, more boredom follows, and he gets clotheslined and pinned by Barbarian. Jesus Christ, did the demos piss off a booker or something? The heels work Roberts over slowly. Hogan gets the hot tag and is double teamed and given a spike piledriver by the powers of pain, who then both get disqualified.
Lame.
Jesse is completely losing his shit on commentary, yelling about Hebner being paid off by Hogan and giving him an easy time of it by disqualifying 3/4 of DiBiase's team. To be honest, he has got a point. Even back then when I watched this as a kid, I thought, no, this is bad.
It's over. Spike pile driver nails the champ. Hogan he's disqualifying someone. What? I can't believe it. He's saving Hogan again. Not once, no, twice Hogan's gonna get saved in this match. Referee may have just disqualified both members of the Powers of Pain.
I mean, well, yeah, Hogan's guys may as well not even bother showing up. After all, Hulk Hogan's on their team. He's the top face. He can never lose.
Anyway, it's Hogan and Roberts versus DiBiase. If it's 1988, then maybe there's suspense, but the DiBiase push has been pretty much killed off by this point. Hogan survives the $1 Million Dream by using that special scientific counter, having your partner run in and cheap shot the guy on the third drop of the arm. Jesus, Hulk, what's wrong with doing the job for once in your life?
Hogan will never job. I mean, it would have been understandable if Hogan had been eliminated. Zeus had wrenched his neck earlier on in the match, and the Powers had made this worse with their spike pile driver. I mean, having Hogan lose here would have made DiBiase look strong, and it would have helped build towards Hogan's feud with Zeus.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would make sense. I mean, you could have told the story that, you know, Hogan pretty much had his neck broken thanks to the Powers of Pain and Zeus, you know, and he has to sell wearing a neck brace or something like that.
Yeah, but that'd involve Hogan selling.
You know, and you'd have had it where DiBiase, you know, claimed a victory over Hulk Hogan, and that would have built towards the Hogan versus Zeus feud if that's what they were going towards. But none of that happens. Instead, Jake gets the hot tag. But then Virgil runs in with a broken arm. Now that's toady, and that's on the quality of Smithers there. And he takes a DDT for his boss, which allows DiBiase then to drop a fist and pin Roberts with his feet on the ropes. You know, because Hogan's not sharing that spotlight with anyone, brother.
And as expected, DiBiase beats up Hogan for a bit until he decides to start no-selling, brother, and finishes DiBiase with his usual Hulk Up routine at 27 minutes and 28 seconds. Again, I really question the need for Hogan to win this match, considering he was already the champion and all. I mean, if you put DiBiase over there, you pop huge heel heat for him, and you build to a pretty good blow-off for the future.
After the match, Savage puts over the SummerSlam rematch at the upcoming No Holds Barred pay-per-view. Hogan and Bruce then do the same in their locker room backstage, before Sherry comes along and tosses baby powder in their faces so that Savage and Zeus can attack. At least I think it was baby powder.
Subtle.
A load of baby faces come out to try and separate Macho and Zeus from Hogan and Beefer, and for some bizarre reason, Dino Bravo was among them.
Yeah, why is Dino Bravo hanging out in the same locker room as all the good guys? I mean, bear in mind that kayfabe was still a thing back then, it just looks odd. If there had been several bad guys there amongst the good guys, well, it might have made sense. I mean, the feud is so intense that the babyfaces and heels have come together to try and separate this fight backstage. Think of what happened more recently with Undertaker and Brock Lesnar.
Next up, it's Team Captain Rowdy Roddy Piper, Superfly, Jimmy Snooker, and the Bushwhackers versus Ravishing Rick Rude, Mr. Perfect, and the fabulous Rougeau brothers. It's Roddy's Rowdies against the Rude Brood.
And wow, talk about your contrasting talents. Also, Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan. Bobby He-Man.
By the power of managing. Bobby Heenan is noticeably absent, and there's been an ongoing storyline all night that is dealing with dissension in the Heenan family. That dissension will be the Brainbusters splitting up in storyline terms.
The faces start off by taking it in turns to bite the heels in various places, including right on the arse, and the match becomes a bit of a comedy from there, with Jacques Rougeau in particular being in full-on melodramatic oversell mode, which would serve him well when he would later become the Mountie.
The Mountie?
He's handsome, he's brave, he's strong.
But
that's a story for another time, as tonight Jacques hits the showers early following a Superfly splash. Rude and Hennig have some heel miscommunication to keep the faces on the fence. Piper gets shut of Raymond following a pile driver, so it's Rude and Hennig against all four faces. Hennig gets beat up but manages a quick roll up on Butch to even up a little. Rude then takes out Luke with the Rude Awakening to make it 2-on-2. And this is why I gave you that line. Come on.
thankfully, before Luke can feel up and up.
Come on, say the line.
Thankfully, before Luke can feel up another wrestler's balls.
The heels then toy with Snooker for a while, with Hennig being his usual great self. After a rather long sequence, Piper gets the hot tag and comes out fists are flying, but he and Rude eliminate each other as they brawl on the outside to a double countout, which, believe it or not, is the blow-off to their feud as well.
Wait, what?
We're now down to Snooker versus Perfect, and the two of them have a great exchange before a roll-through on a crossbody gets 2 for Perfect, even though he's essentially got his balls in Snooker's face.
Charming. What is it with matches with the bushwhackers and balls? The perfect teabagging is then followed up with the perfect plex to finish this match at 21 minutes and 27 seconds.
Right behind the curtain, the rest of the Rude's brood await Mr. Perfect and celebrate with him. Sean Mooney asks Rick Rude the whereabouts of Bobby Heenan and gets told to mind his own beeswax. Can't say I blame him, really.
Meanwhile, Mean Gene is with the Ultimate Warriors team. Jim Neidhart. Shut up.
Jim Neidhart.
Jim Neidhart strokes his beard and laughs a lot. The Rockers are going to rock and roll and strut and stroll. Ultimate Warrior cuts a classic nonsensical promo discussing organ donor cards or trying to hug his fellow teammates. Delightfully Barbie stuff, I'm sure you'll agree.
In the Survivor Series, the Heenan family will be meeting these four men. They are the Ultimate Warriors. That includes Powerhouse Jim the Anvil Neidhart,
Bobby Heenan, Brainbusters, Haku, Andre the Giant. I hope we don't ruin your party. I hope we don't eat too much of your cake and ice cream.
All right, out of the Rockers, that includes Marty Jannetty.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be a whole lot of rock and rolling, a whole lot of strutting and strolling, taking care of business as we are fired up and we are ready. Yeah.
Shawn Michaels.
I tell you what, the Ultimate Warriors are ready to rock, and the Heenan family get ready to roll because the Ultimate Warriors are coming with both guns loaded, and they're gonna take the Heenan family downtown.
Captain, the Ultimate Warrior.
Stretch their limits. These men have taken steps in parts unknown. These men leave organ donor cards with the power. You, the Heenan family, have not fully united. I have taken these men into the deepest, darkest parts where only pain and creatures of bad habit live. They know that we shall prevail as the Ultimate Warrior.
So next up, it's our main event of the evening. Team Captain, the Ultimate Warrior, with Jim the Anvil Neidhart and the Rockers, versus Team Captain Andre the Giant, Haku, and the Brainbusters. It's the Ultimate Warriors versus the Heenan family. Oh, hang on, scratch that. It looks like Tully Blanchard is out and Bobby Heenan is in.
What happened?
The backstory here is that Tully Blanchard failed a surprise drug test at the arena and was fired that very same afternoon. They had been teasing a Brainbusters breakup for a while, so it sort of made sense here, although they never actually acknowledged Tully's absence at any point here. As mentioned before, the Busters were already on their way out anyway, so Arn Anderson had already seen the writing on the wall and knew that this was going to be his last day in the WWF.
Despite the fact that the Hart Foundation had been feuding with the Busters previously, Jim Neidhart just sticks out like a sore thumb of this team in the main event. It's weird how they split up the Harts here in this pay-per-view.
Do you think it'd have been better if it had been Brett instead of Jim Neidhart in this match?
I mean, to be honest, his stuff that he did in the other match against Savage was great, but there wasn't enough of it. That's the problem. And maybe it would have made more sense storyline-wise.
You also would have had Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels teaming up with each other. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
A huge brawl erupts before the Warrior gets to the ring, and Andre wipes out the Rockers and the Anvil. Warrior hits the ring just as the bell rings. Ultimate Warrior hits 3 huge clotheslines and knocks Andre over the top to the floor and gets him quickly counted out. Just like that, Andre the Giant is eliminated. This immediate count-out for Andre was probably for the best, as he was pretty much immobile at this point, and it certainly helped to make the Warrior look invincible.
Neidhart beats up everyone, while Andre stands in the aisleway, wondering what happened to him whilst also shouting his head off. But the Anvil isn't around for too long, as he quickly takes a Haku thrust kick to the back of the head and hits the showers.
The Rockers and the team of AA and Haku proceed to do a great little mini-match, and I suddenly dream about what they had planned if Tully hadn't been turfed. Heenan draws huge heel heat by tagging in for a cheap shot and then immediately tagging out when Marty fights back. Even Jesse laughed at that one.
Arn beats up Jannetty for a bit, so then Heenan tags in again and gets the pin. See, that's how you be a cowardly heel.
Warrior comes out and takes out his aggression on both Arn and Haku. Then Shawn finishes off Haku with a crossbody off the top. Shawn gets tossed to the floor, and we almost get to see some high flying from the Brain, of all people, as he teases a dive off the top rope, but then thinks better of it.
The Heenan family dissension is furthered as Heenan shouts at Arn for, tagging him in. Arn takes out his frustrations on Michaels, pinning him after his world-class spinebuster that he does so well.
So it's Warrior against Arnie and the Brain. It's Arnie and the Brain, it's Arnie and the Brain. One is a genius, the other's leaving this gravy train.
No, stop that!
Sorry. Arn knows his days are numbered in the WWF, but you know what? If he's going out in a blaze of glory. Arn gets some essentially token offense in, then gets splattered and pinned by the Warrior. See you back in WCW, Arn.
That was a nice blaze of glory. Heenan, who has no idea that Arn was pinned, thinks Anderson is walking out at him, so he yells at Arn to come back. The facial expressions on Bobby when he realises what's happened are absolutely priceless, as he slowly turns around to see that he is left alone in the ring with the Warrior.
Warrior toys with the Weasel for his own amusement, the best kind I find, and then finally puts him out of his misery with a shoulder tackle at the 20-minute 25-second mark. Admittedly, it was a lot of fun watching Warrior humiliate poor Bobby and give him his just desserts for the months and months of torment that Heenan and his family had put the Warrior through. Heenan was an awesome bumper, and he definitely deserves props for stepping in to take Tully's place and to make the most out of a bad situation. Post-match, the Warrior briefly poses in the ring and then runs to the back, clotheslining Heenan down in the aisle on the way.
Here was the WWF dipping its toes in the Ultimate Warrior's pool, seeing if he can lead the WWF into the 90s. Funny thing is, there was a guy involved in this match who would do just that, but it wasn't the Warrior. And I'll give you a clue, it wasn't Haku either.
However, we're not quite done here yet, as the WWF had one last pay-per-view to give us before the end of the year. And funnily enough, this pay-per-view is not on the WWE Network.
Oh, what?
It's No Holds Barred, the movie, the match.
What? No, don't make me go through that again. No, I beg of you.
It's December 12th, 1989, the day that the WWF decided to air on pay-per-view the classic Hulk Hogan movie that we reviewed a few months ago. Don't worry, I'm not going to make you review that again. If you want to catch our review of No Holds Barred, you'll find that in a previous video. Check out the playlist
Thank God.
that we have on our YouTube channel. So, on pay-per-view, they would air the No Holds Barred match, followed shortly by a rematch from SummerSlam 89, where Hogan and Beefer teamed up to take on Savage and Zeus for real. The only difference here is that this rematch takes place in a steel cage.
Right, so for the cost of a full pay-per-view, you're getting a movie and one match.
Yes.
So the cost of a pay-per-view in America is like, what, about $20?
I'd say so, yeah.
So that's $20 for a movie. That would have probably cost about $4.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, after the movie was shown, and as I said, you'll have to check over our back catalogue of episodes to find our thoughts on that cinematic masterpiece, we are then in the empty arena with Sean Mooney lurking around as the cage is being constructed. Mooney actually gets into the ring at some point and describes the feeling of being inside the cage, which admittedly is pretty damn cool.
Professor Mooney tells us that the steel will not feel any pain if someone's thrown into it, but rather the person will feel the pain instead. Thanks for clearing that up, Sean. I would have never been able to figure that one out on my own.
We then throw it back to Mean Gino Gooden in front of an obvious blue screen of the arena and the steel cage. Mean Gene mentions that when Zeus arrived in the WWF, no doubt after jumping out of God of War,
it's not been released yet.
he was jealous about Hogan getting the top billing in the movie, and Zeus said that he should have been the star of the movie and not the Hulkster.
Well, Zeus hadn't said that as much. That might be stretching it a bit. It was more like he screamed it.
Mean Gene then throws it to a special video package highlighting the entire feud between Hulk Hogan and the human wrecking machine Zeus, including footage of their previous encounters on Saturday night's main events, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series, which we've literally just covered now.
Considering that Beefer is Hogan's best mate, I'm surprised that we didn't get a repeat of what happened between Zeus and Randy in the film, and Hogan has to help Brutus through his physical therapy, and presumably change his bedpan.
We throw it to Tony Schiavone, who is standing by with Savage, Sherry and Zeus. Sadly, there's no Cauldron of Madness this time. Savage promises the destruction of Hulkamania inside the steel cage, while Zeus does a bit of screaming and says that he will kill Hulk Hogan.
Yes, kill. Not beat. Kill. That's pretty intense. Coke is one hell of a drug, kids.
Jesus.
Who's the delivery that made that?
So here we go with No Holds Barred, the match. Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake versus Macho King Randy Savage and the Human Wrecking Machine Zeus with sensational Queen Sherry. I should point out, this isn't actually a live match. This was taped during an episode of Wrestling Challenge about 2 weeks beforehand.
Right, so it's not even a live show that Vince is expecting us to pay money for.
No. The referee will be outside the ring, and you can win the match either by escaping the cage or foolishly trying to make a pin attempt. Beefcake gets in the ring, and Sherry rams Hogan into the cage from the outside, leaving Beefcake to be double-teamed.
Oh my. Hogan climbed into the cage just in time to stop Zeus from breaking Beefcake's neck. Great job there, Hulk. Where were you when the poor guy went parasailing?
Oh, God. Spot of the match was Savage taking a high backdrop into the cage. Savage was the man in 1989. Sherry met Savage at the top of the cage, allowing Beefcake to do the double noggin knocker spot.
Because that's stupid.
Beefcake put the sleeper on Zeus, but Savage broke it up, and the heels took over and eventually tried to escape the cage. Hogan superplexed Zeus back in, while Savage and Beefcake rammed each other's head into the cage at the same time in a ridiculous cred-killing spot.
How?
Despite the door being opened, Sherry decides to climb up the cage, not only to give us an up-the-arse shot, and what an arse it is, but also to hand a chain to Savage. Savage heads to the top of the cage and gets nailed in the midsection by Beefcake on an axe handle attempt with the chain.
Hogan hammers away on Zeus, but a slam attempt fails, and Zeus lands on top of him and begins choking again. But then, Hogan starts hulking up, and he no-sells Zeus's double chop to the neck. By the way, for those counting, Zeus only has 3 moves. Choking, double chop, and neck twist. That's 2 less than John Cena. I didn't think that was possible.
Savage goes for the door and Beefcake goes over and out, leaving it to Zeus and Hogan. Hogan hammers away with rights and then floors Zeus with a clothesline. Hogan with a body slam! Hogan then stops Beefcake from coming back in, telling him that Zeus is mine. Selfish bastard.
Hogan rams Zeus into the cage 4 times and scoops him up for a slam. Hogan then hits the ropes and drops the big leg 3 times on the human wrecking machine to finally end the god-awful feud at 9 minutes 25 via pinfall. It was even shorter than the match that they had in the movie.
And then it's time for the usual pose down routine, as Beefcake does a poor job imitating Hogan, and Hogan does his usual act, whilst Vince McMahon and Jesse Ventura bitch on commentary about the fact that WWF pay-per-views might be getting blacklisted by certain cable providers.
The match was surprisingly entertaining, I suppose, but I suppose that a brawl inside a steel cage isn't too hard to screw up. Everything went by at electrifying speed, so when Zeus did his usual garbage, Savage was bumping his ass. Off for Beefcake or vice versa.
This would thankfully be the blow-off match in the Hogan vs Zeus feud. This would also be the last time that we would see Zeus, as he left the WWF before the Royal Rumble. Considering that Vince was planning to have Hogan vs Zeus as the main event of WrestleMania 6, this could only be a good thing.
Jesus, the horror!
Mean Gino Gooden is backstage with the Hulkster. He congratulates Hogan for the victory and declares it a Christmas present for himself. Hogan spouts off how he predicted that he was going to come out on top, and with Beefcake and the fans on his side, there was no other choice but for him to go over.
That sounds like his WCW days.
Gooden interrupts Hogan's rambling about taking care of business in the 30-man Royal Rumble, blowing his lines in the process, then brings up yet again that the Royal Rumble pay-per-view might not be carried by certain cable companies. Hogan looks like he's about to cry. They want us to call and bother our cable companies and bully them to bring us these fine family entertainments. Hogan then cuts a promo on the unnamed cable companies.
Wow. Just wow.
No matter what the price was of this pay-per-view extravaganza, I could not possibly believe that anyone would willingly spend more than $10 on a pay-per-view consisting of one wrestling match and about 20 minutes or so of interviews and such, and a really crappy, campy movie. The match was alright for what it was, a WWF-style brawl instead of a steel cage, but it's the type of thing that you'd have on Saturday night's main event. Savage bumped his arse off here doing all the work, and even Sherry showed that she was a better worker than Hogan, Beefer and Zeus combined here.
Yeah, but the fact that this pay-per-view doesn't even show on the WWE Network, like, even before the Hogan racism scandal, it says it all, really.
So, let's conclude then with our honours for Match of the Night. So, Little Daddy E, what would you say would be the Match of the Night? Not just for Survivor Series, but for the No Holds Barred pay-per-view.
What do you mean the No Holds Barred pay-per-view? There was only one match there.
So, out of those 2 pay-per-views then, what was the best match of the night for you?
My favourite match of the night was the Ultimate Warriors versus the Heenan family.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, it had some really good matches going on there, and I like how Heenan stepped in after Tully was kicked out. And, you know, the ending was pretty good as well. Heenan's body language and the whole Warrior just flattens him, plays around with him a bit.
I would tend to agree with you. I think that Ultimate Warriors versus the Heenan family was a good match. We got some lovely exchanges there between the Rockers and the team of Arn Anderson and Haku. It made sense for Andre to be eliminated as quickly as he was. Heenan bumped his ass off and, you know, made the best out of the best situation. Like you said, his facial expressions were absolutely top notch. And this was WWE dipping their toes in the water to see if the Warrior could be a successful main eventer. I mean, at this point, you know, we're sort of building up to WrestleMania. As you know, as history knows, it wasn't Hogan versus Zeus at WrestleMania. It was Hogan versus Warrior, showing that, you know, Warrior was just getting to be on that same level as Hulk Hogan, which is something that we will certainly see the beginnings of when we come to our next WWE WWF pay-per-view, which will be the Royal Rumble 1990. But that won't be what we'll be doing next time. Next time, we're going to be going back to WCW for the last time in 1989 with Future Shock, Starrcade 1989, where Sting, Muta, Flair and Luger have a round-robin scrap to determine the wrestler of the 90s, I guess. So yes, we will be officially leaving the 80s behind.
And that means that I have big plans in store for the 90s.
Really?
Big plans indeed.
Oh, I see. What we'll also do as well during our review of Future Shock is that we will go back over the previous pay-per-view matches of the 80s and we'll basically build up a super card featuring all our best matches of pay-per-views from the 80s. So that's to come in our next episode. So, in conclusion, you can find us on facebook.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews. We are on Twitter at The Big Daddy D1. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel right here at youtube.com/All-CAW Wrestling 1, as well as my second channel at youtube.com/The Big Daddy D Reviews 1. Future videos coming up on that channel is going to include a look at more dodgy knockoff bootleg stuff, which I know you and me like to look at. And
oh, yes.
Point at the funny things and laugh. And there'll also be an upcoming video where I'll look at the top 10 worst PlayStation top 10 worst PlayStation 1 games of all time. So there's some good stuff there. Be sure to check out that channel as well. Please take the lime. Please take the lime.
Please take the lime. Take it!
Please take the time to like and share this video, leave a comment and subscribe for more. But until next time, I'm the Big Daddy D.
I'm the Little Daddy E.
And we're signing out for another episode of the All-CAW Wrestling video podcast type thingamajig. Bye!
Subscribe and you can draw Zeus like one of your French girls.
Oh, don't start that again.
Hey!
Jesus.
Bada bing, bada boo.